What is that? I hate. Die! Whoa! Generic control in the deck goes to here. Back with another Game Theory FNAF video. Today we're doing Burn Them All, which is a part of the Ultimate Timeline. I believe this is the third of 4 parts for the Ultimate Timeline, and I have actually enjoyed these videos so much. They've actually explained a lot more of the story to me, like how the timeline actually goes. I've learned a lot from the past 2 videos. I'm probably going to learn a lot from this video and the next one. The next one's actually the longest one out of all 4 of them, which is going to be really exciting. You instant reaction to the last one, which was Afton's Rising, no, the Rise of Afton. Wow, Afton's Rising. I was close. You took a reaction to that. I'll leave it right up there. Also, link down below in the description. Also in a place on my channel with all the other Game Theory FNAF reactions going in chronological order. And also people told me I should do, like, you know, style theory and other things by Game Theory. Like, I plan on doing, like, Minecraft game theories and stuff like that, because I do stream Minecraft every single Monday. And Wednesdays, I stream Pokemon. I'm doing a Pokemon Heart Gold Nuzlocke today from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This video goes live on Wednesday. Unless you're a patron and you got this video on Tuesday, which they get my videos a day early for $3 a month. So you become a patron, $3 a month. All my reaction videos a day early. It's like 16 videos a week for $3 a month. It goes so far in supporting the channel. You have no idea how much how much of a difference one patron makes, and it's so much appreciated. So shout out to patrons. Shout out to everybody watching this video, even if you aren't a patron, because there's no paywalls on my channel. Because I'm here to make you smile, not make you pay. So thank you so much for clicking on this video. I'll be reading your comments whether you're subscribed, unsubscribed, patron, not patron, first time here, last time here. I'll be reading your comments. Let's go ahead and jump into Burn Them All. Burn Them All.
Internet, welcome.
Which reminds me of
Theory and page 20
Game of Thrones.
Of our final FNAF timeline.
Yeah.
It's getting ridiculous.
I've
Last
enjoyed
time we
these
covered
so
William
much.
Afton's rise as a serial killer. How the loss of his young son in
I got a little taste of
1983
blood.
caused him to make one fateful promise that would ultimately serve as his driving force for decades. I will put you back together.
And did a little stab.
Fueled by grief and obsession, Afton would lose himself in work and drinks. One night in a fit of
Work
rage, he
and
lashes
drinks.
out against Henry's young daughter Charlie, his first murder. This moment becomes the first domino to fall in a long sequence of events that ultimately destroys William's life and the lives of those around him. That one murder gives Afton a taste for blood, resulting in the deaths of 10 more children across 2 different
lot. That's a
pizzerias.
why
Those
always children?
go on to possess
'Cause they're just
animatronics,
easy.
giving
They don't-
Afton
they're
his first
easy
exposure
targets.
to Remnant and the potential solution for bringing his son back to life. The need to learn more about this miraculous power leads him to produce the Funtime animatronics, as well as their capture devices.
Also,
Robots
wasn't the
designed
whole
to bring
thing,
kids
like,
to him for
5 things
experimentation
become
and
one?
collection of more Remnant. Except there was
Was it 5?
one thing that he didn't account for: his daughter's curiosity. He made the
My
robots
numbers
too
are
appealing,
bigger than
and it
yours.
would cost him Elizabeth's life. Now, with 2 children to put back together, Afton was more desperate and crazed than ever, returning to defunct pizzerias to steal the possessed metal still living inside their walls. What he didn't
Yeah.
account for, though, were the ghosts, forcing him to pay for the sins of his past. When last we left
And
him,
they
William
left
was
him in there,
brainwashed,
which is
leading
crazy.
to death behind a secret wall. Gone, but certainly not
And they
forgotten,
boarded him
as
up.
we're about to see in today's video.
Which is
Today
wild.
we're finishing up chapter 2 of our story, wrapping up the Afton era. Over the next 6 pages, we switch our focus to the other main character of the
6
franchise,
pages of
Mike,
script?
a young boy dealing with the fallout of a stupid childhood decision with tragic consequences.
Ah,
a young
trauma.
man whose life is best described as collateral damage, caught in the
Oof.
blast radius of William's whirlwind of destruction. Now, before we begin, let me just rip off the band-aid now. We won't be finishing the timeline
No,
today.
I thought he said it was
I'm
4
sorry,
parts.
I wanted to, but covering FNAF VR, AR, and Security Breach wound up taking me an additional 9 pages of script.
That's
and
a
I've
lot.
already made you wait long enough for this part, so I just had to make the executive call to break this one up into 2. Don't worry,
So
that
this
part is
one's-
already written. It is already
Oh,
recorded.
episode
It's
3,
just
part
in the
2. I thought it was
process of
supposed to
being
be
edited. It is
the
a
editor.
hefty episode. So
I
mark it on your
forgot
calendar. That
sleep.
one's actually going to be going live on March 25th. It's also coming complete
Okay,
with a
March.
live talk back where we go back over everything from the past couple episodes, as well as having ourselves some very special guests. So overall, that one should be a lot
are the
of
special
fun.
guests?
Fair warning, though, the conclusions
Crazy that
we've
this is just
reached
a couple
that
months
solve
ago.
Security Breach, whew, they are controversial. I feel good about them. Like, I think that we've locked in on a lot of the answers here, but they're gonna raise a lot of discussion. Let's just say that you're either gonna love that episode or hate it. I don't really think there's gonna be
well,
much in between on that one. Anyway, without
no
any
one
further
likes
ado, let's
everything.
cover a chunk
Nobody's
of the timeline
unanimous
that's a lot
about
less
anything. There's
controversial.
always someone
Let's
that's going to
meet
hate
Mike.
something.
William
Afton
still
era
wasn't
continued.
that weird. Michael knew his father sometimes traveled for
Did we
work,
do this all in one
disappearing
take?
for days on end, but usually there was some sort of notice, a phone call, a post-it, something. It's not like Michael and his father were close, far from it. But as a household of 2 suffering men coping with years of tragedy and loss, there was at least some element of communication between the two of
And the
them.
mom
they were
left?
united by a
And didn't
name
take the son?
and a shared pain. This time, though, things felt different. William had left nothing. His absence was longer. There were no check-ins, no updates, just silence. Something had happened. If there was one thing Michael knew about his father, it was that he had contingencies, safety checks, backup plans. His father was a careful and guarded man. He held his cards close to his chest, and as such, William had prepared him in the event that something like this ever happened. Normally,
what?
his
Like he
father
knew
kept
this
his
was
home
gonna
office
happen?
locked,
Like as
but
if
in
he
the
was
event
gonna
of
get
an
like
unexpected
arrested or put in
prolonged
prison?
absence, Michael had been instructed to enter his father's office and look behind an empty set of shelves mounted in the corner of the room. Rolling his eyes, Michael entered the office. Never fully understood
a
how William
trap?
was able to spend so many hours of his days locked up in here. There was just nothing to do. Most of this place was empty. He dragged himself over to the shelf in the corner, expecting to find an emergency contact list, a family safety deposit box.
But who
What he
keeps a safe
actually
deposit
found
box in
there
their
was
house?
completely unexpected.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it.
What'd you find?
It was right where you said it would be.
The shelf swung open and revealed
Is
a
that,
giant
like-
industrial elevator, one that led straight down into an underground bunker. But
Yeah.
that was impossible. Hidden inside his childhood home
Yeah,
was
underneath,
a secret
yeah.
entrance to an enormous underground science
That's where he
lab?
spent all his time.
It didn't make any sense. Seriously, it didn't make any sense. And yet
Yeah.
here it was, mapped directly underneath the floor plan of the house that he'd grown up in. Lost
Right
his
underneath his
brother,
nose.
been tortured in. Michael thought that he'd known his father, a prideful, sad, angry man with petty everyday problems, but clearly he'd been living with a stranger this entire time. His father had
Odd.
secrets. Suddenly the days of William being locked inside of his office made sense. He'd been here the entire time. Where was here though? Was this Circus Baby's entertainment?
I thought it
and
was Sister
rentals? The Circus
Location.
Baby restaurant
Pretty sure
always
it's
did
Sister
seem to be a
Location.
deeply personal project for father. A failure of his that cut unusually deep, especially after that first location had to be closed prematurely due to the gas leaks. After
they
that
weren't
day,
technically
father
gas
really
leaks.
did
I thought it
seem
was
to
because of Elizabeth.
change, to lose himself even more in his work. Clearly, the entrance he had found was some sort of secret back way into the facility, one that required
Back way? What is the
crawling
main
through
way?
vents
Oh,
to navigate.
really?
His father had been working here, but in secret. Why? And that's when he found her. At the end of the facility, Circus Baby. His father's pride and joy.
I
Is
played
that
Sister
something was
Location,
different
did it on my
about her. She
birthday.
wasn't like the
It
others.
was a
The
live
way she
stream.
talked, the
It's
stories
linked
she
in the
told.
description.
This wasn't just
I
a
don't like
robot.
scary
She
games.
was alive somehow. And not only was she alive, she also felt familiar.
There is something bad inside of me. I'm broken. I can't be fixed. Will you
Oh,
help
that
me?
kind of reminds me of the
His
"You're
sister?
broken, I can
William's
fix you,"
baby
or I'll
girl?
put you
But
back together.
how? Why? What was this place? He dug around some old files and found blueprints outlining the features of these animatronics. Storage containers, voice mimicking, parental tracking. And was that a
Parental.
child in Freddy's stomach?
Maybe.
Was his father collecting and experimenting on kids? Were
Yeah,
all
you gotta
the
catch 'em
rumors
all,
that he'd
right?
heard throughout his past actually true? That the animatronics came to life at night? That there were murders done in all the pizzerias? That his father had somehow been the prime suspect in all of it? Suddenly, Michael's mind
somehow
flashed back
was
to
not
his
put away
persistent
because
nightmares
the
throughout his
criminal
childhood.
justice
Had
system.
he been experimented on too? Tears stung in his eyes as anger, fear, and confusion.
Which might be the
filled
most
his
realistic
body.
part
His
of FNAF,
father's
is the
secrets
criminal
were
justice
pouring
system.
out. William wasn't just a lame, overworked father. He was a monster, toying with life itself.
But why did he want
Suddenly,
Michael to
everything
find
clicked.
this?
He frantically looked around the room, blinking human heads
Or
on
maybe
poles, staring back at him.
Michael
Green eyes,
went with
his
it
sister.
because he's
Blue
trying
eyes,
to-
his brother. Closed eyes, his mom. All just staring expectantly. These were meant to be human. William was working down
Yeah.
here trying to make believable humans.
And Michael wants
literally
to undo
rebuilding
his
the
wrong
family
decisions.
that they had both lost. The small little girl robots with their British accents roaming the hallways of this underground facility.
What is
suddenly
that?
Took on a whole new context.
I hate. Whoa!
Is this the same person?
I
Were
don't
those
like that at
meant
all.
to be his sister? A replacement for her? A clone? Was William building clones?
I've seen
of
those
his
before and I
sister?
did not
They
like
seemed
them, but
to
they
know
was in
him,
the vent.
After all, to react to his presence.
They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
He always did have a bit of a resemblance to his father. Michael's mind reeled as the reality of his world crumbled to
Yeah,
dust.
everything you know.
No, he had to get them out of there. If this really was his sister, heck, if any of these things were human, souls, whatever remnant of the humans that they once were, they needed to be rescued.
They always put us back inside. There's nowhere for us to hide here.
Led by the voice of Circus Baby, he marched through the now empty halls of the Funtime Auditorium. He would lead them. He would protect them.
Doesn't he
And
burn it to the
finally,
ground?
He would be able to forgive himself for the
And he
killing
gets
of his
scooped.
brother so many years.
Scooped. You got McScoop.
You are in the scooping room now.
What a name of a room.
The scooper only hurts for a moment.
For a moment.
Scooper, that violent extraction arm? Michael had seen that one in the pile of blueprints. Something about heat rendering the magical silver metal inside useless. In reality, prior to getting himself spring-locked and put behind the wall, William's methods had become increasingly sophisticated, with a mechanized arm that could infuse new bodies with a soul. William could finally give and take away life. The only thing he needed were the bodies. But William wasn't the only one looking for bodies, as Michael was about to learn.
But if we looked like you, then we could hide.
Is that Innard?
If we looked like
Is he
you,
gonna talk about the Stitch Wraith?
then we would have
Or
some.
maybe the Stitch Wraith is only in the book,
Michael
so maybe
was going to be the
doesn't
hero to
appear.
help these animatronics, all right. He was going to help the
timeline.
haunted tubes and wires of these animatronics escape, just not in the way that he anticipated. His sister had lied to him. Another game of pretend. The scooper plowed forward, digging its extraction arm into his body. As he heard his bones ripping through his flesh, Michael blacked out.
But
Obviously.
something's wrong with me. I should be dead,
Yes.
but I'm not.
Hello.
For the next
Dude,
several
imagine if
months,
it had, like,
Michael's
a
life
creepy
was
smile.
not his own. He was forced to comply with the tangle of wires and spirits that lived inside of him. His body felt like an overfilled
I like how his father
balloon
didn't
begging
warn him
to
about
burst.
this.
As day by day, week by week, his flesh began to sag and discolor. He was a walking, talking, rotting corpse, alive, but wishing he wasn't. He was a puppet,
Yikes.
a walking shell. And while he did his best to conceal his fate, there was only so much a man filled with robot spaghetti could do. The
Robot
entity in his
spaghetti?
innards would eventually leave, but by that point, the damage had been done. His decaying flesh stank, turning him into a literal purple guy. But still, even with no bones, even with rotting purple flesh and begging to die, Michael continued to live.
Somehow.
That silvery metal remnant injected by the scooper meant that he couldn't die. His anger also refused to die. What he had seen down there in his sister's location had rocked him to his core.
sister's
His father had
location.
killed and captured dozens. His experiments had killed his sister and then tortured him throughout all his childhood. He was actively trying to build human replicants. He didn't know where his father was, but Michael knew that he was out there.
But where
somewhere.
was his father? Oh, was he? Oh, he was trapped in the wall.
There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you.
Michael
how did he
had to
find them
correct for
in
the sins of
location?
his father. He had to make things right. Michael would burn Fazbear Entertainment to the ground. I mean, what else could
But did he
do
know
when his skin
that
was
his dad
permanently
was there?
purple? Michael's strategy was simple. He would apply for night security guard positions at the old defunct
then he'd
pizzeria
get fired.
locations. That way, no one ever had to see him or smell him during his shift. And all these old, shuttered locations did need guards. Teenage vandals and squatters were always looking to get inside these abandoned
Well, I mean, there's a
buildings, and
book
yet
right
no
there,
one
so
ever
Stitch
really
Wraith might get
wanted to
mentioned.
work an overnight graveyard shift unless they were practically out of options. Enter Mike. One by one, he would take on the job of security guard, changing his name each time to ensure that no one was able to follow his
Looking
paper trail.
for
Once
his
inside,
father.
he could tamper with the animatronics and figure out how they worked, writing about his experiences in his security logbook. While there, he would listen to the old tapes where upper management awkwardly welcomed new recruits to their summer jobs, even though he was working there nowhere near the summer months. He heard the gory details of his father's franchise from the outsiders looking in, confused and afraid about what was happening in the walls around them. Sometimes he would see his brother in the form of the Golden Freddy suit. It's me appearing on the walls around him. Except now,
That's
there was
haunting.
something else there. He was no longer alone. Another angrier presence was also in the
Angrier?
suit, as if two spirits
They just
were
get
forced to share
angrier.
the same body. And Golden Freddy would attack him now. It was aggressive. Its vengeance wanted to lash out at anyone with the Afton name, anyone who
Makes
wore
sense.
a security guard outfit. Over time, Mike worked
Makes
his way
sense.
through the old restaurants, the original pizzeria, the bigger, better Freddy Fazbear's.
Bigger,
He spent
better.
weeks there looking for clues as to his father's whereabouts. And each time at the end of his week shift, he would then set the location on fire. Remnant can't survive high temperatures after all. So burning away whatever
True.
spirit-laden animatronics that still existed inside seemed like a winning strategy. All this revisiting of his past, though, was causing the nightmares to begin again. Hallucinations that brought him back to his childhood. The guilt around killing his brother. His
Does he
dreams
need
were
to sleep? If he
oddly
can't
mixed
die,
with
does
the
he
shrill
need
phone
sleep?
calls of the security guards. But it would all be worth it in the end. The goal was to eventually stumble across the one location, the one job that would finally reunite him with his father. Little did Mike know that that day would come sooner than he expected. 2023, an advertisement came across Mike's TV. Fazbear Frights. A new
Is that really
horror
supposed to be
attraction inspired by the
2023?
awful crimes that occurred around Freddy Fazbear's Pizza so many years ago. It made Mike sick. People looking to make a quick buck off the tragedy of others. Off
That's
his
true.
own
That's
family.
very
This
poor
wasn't a
timing.
joke or
Maybe they
entertainment.
just didn't think it was
Regardless,
real
he had to be a
or
part of
something.
it.
I don't
This
know.
team was combing through his family's history. They might stumble across something that could be useful. And if his father was truly still alive as he suspected, there would be no way that he wouldn't show up here. Maybe finally, this could be the final chapter in his family's family's marathon of tragedy. Mike applied for the job and was immediately handed the keys.
Immediately,
Years of doing this
just-
had taught him that security guards rarely receive thorough security checks. They also
Yeah.
liked how creepy Mike looked. They thought it was a costume, on theme for the job. What little they
Wow.
knew.
Hey, glad you came back for another night. I promise it'll be a lot more interesting this time.
For weeks,
I-
there was
that's-
nothing.
you don't
But
want
just as
interesting
Mike
when it comes to
considered giving
FNAF.
up, he received the call that he'd been waiting for years.
You're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one.
Could this finally
Well, like an
be? Sure enough,
animatronic?
there he was. William inside his iconic golden Bonnie Springlock suit, only now it was green and decaying with age.
Oh.
And there they were, a small family of broken men finally reunited.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time, Dad. Mike had always struggled with the
That's
phantoms
terrifying.
of his past haunting him, but now all the animatronics he'd encountered
That's
over the past
also
months, hopping
terrifying.
from pizzeria to pizzeria, suddenly sprang to life.
Can we
Their
stop
burned
this?
faces
Can we stop this,
haunting him as
please?
he tried to keep track of his father on the cameras. It would seem that William's mere presence had put the spirits on high alert. Ultimately, they were harmless, more annoying than anything else, but there was one that felt different from the others.
Which
one that
was-
was more than just a mere phantom. The security puppet. If he looked at the cameras at just the right moment, he could see it floating there through the holes. He could even see its reflection in the water pooled on the ground. It would seem like he wasn't the only one there on a mission. While he was dealing with Springtrap, Michael assumed that this one was likely dealing with the spirits of this place, finally setting them to rest. Hopefully this means a happier day for all of us, Mike thought
Maybe.
to himself.
I don't know.
And in that moment, he felt the air around him release, like pressure being let out of a bottle. The building sighed, as if 5 spirits had finally been allowed to move on. He had the sense that his
Interesting.
brother was a part of them. He rigged the wiring inside the building to misfire, and the dry, desiccated walls erupted in flames.
Even though there's water
It
on the
is
floor.
Finished.
But guess who
Except
always comes
it
back?
was not. Somehow, through sheer force of will, Afton remained. He had survived, and Mike would need to find a new way of finishing off his father. Luckily, the solution would present itself later that year. Not from Mike, but from another victim that had been left in his father's wake.
We're talking about becoming a
Oh,
Fazbear
Lord.
Entertainment franchisee. Restaurant ownership and management. Something almost anyone can do with a limited
Even if
degree of
you have
success.
no
You
idea
are
about the
now
restaurant
face of
industry.
The newly rebranded Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Fazbear Entertainment as a brand had been closed for years. William had been stuck in a suit and a wall. The only person who legally could bring the franchise back was Henry, but he'd largely pulled out of the franchise around the time
Apparently,
of his father's disappearance. Something was up.
Henry
Surely
didn't
this
save
had to be
William.
some kind
William
of
saved
fake
Henry,
news.
is
Mike,
what
doing what he did best,
changed,
applied for a
based off the
franchise
comments of the last
and
video.
immediately got the job. There was just one thing out of the ordinary. Paragraph 4.
It was like, who
If
saved
you are
who?
playing this tape, that means that not only have you been checking outside at the end of every shift, as you were instructed to do, but also that you have found something that meets the criteria of your special obligations under paragraph 4.
That's
No
very
employment
ominous.
contract he'd ever signed required him to keep special lookout for independently moving animatronics outside
Oh,
the
that's
restaurant.
lefty.
Now he knew something was up here. Henry was luring them all back. Rather than trying to go to them, like Mike had done for years, Henry was doing the opposite. He was putting them all under the same roof. He was finishing them off for good. Mike knew
Again.
this wasn't meant to be a restaurant. It was meant to be a prison, a containment vessel, a locked box meant to trap them all in so they could finally
And we also
end
never
the
know what's in that
madness.
box.
It took a few nights, but eventually everyone was there. His father, the puppet, the robot spaghetti that had once violated his body, and his sister, now
That's-
hopelessly devoted
that's-
to serve the man
yeah,
that
that's
had
a
once
sentence.
gotten her killed. It was time. He had been instructed to seal the doors and leave, but while he locked everything down, he didn't move on. If this was truly meant to be the end, if the remnant needed to be washed away, he needed to be a part of that.
This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you, although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a
Does he
feeling
know?
that you are right where you want to be. And to
Oh,
you,
he
are
knows.
trapped in the corridors.
So he's like, yeah, I know who you are.
Give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole.
Except it didn't.
So don't keep the devil waiting, old friend.
And with
Old
that, it
friend,
was over. The Afton
Henry
legacy
William.
died with all of them trapped inside of a literal box. As the flames danced around the office, Mike, for the first time in decades, was happy. But William wasn't gone yet. Although the
He didn't know
darkest
that, though.
pit of
He
hell
died
was
knowing.
open and waiting for him, something or someone wouldn't allow him to move on.
Nah.
Instead, he found himself locked in moments from his past. The pizzeria, his son's room, his
Yep,
underground
which
bunker. It was as if
is
his brain's neurons
what,
were all firing at once, overloaded,
what is
mixing
the
and
ultimate
matching all his
mo-
biggest
what is it
fears,
called?
regrets,
Custom? Is it
failures.
custom mode? I don't know what
was
it's called.
this place? How did he get here? He called out into the silence. Then they started
why
coming.
is it
Without
so
warning,
funny?
Animatronics, both new and old, began to jump out at him, bite him, rip him limb from limb. The pain was
Purgatory.
immeasurable. Make it stop.
Ultimate
Make it
Custom
stop.
Night, that's what it's
William,
called.
for the first time, longed for death, an end to this torture. Just as it felt like he couldn't take it anymore, everything was quiet again. It was as if the world had been reset. There was a brief moment of quiet,
And it starts back
the
over again.
onslaught began again. Dozens of faces from his past all focused on him. A waking nightmare that he couldn't escape from. More pain,
Yeah.
more ripping. It was his own personal hell, but why? Why couldn't he just die? And then he saw
I was like,
a group
no,
of
he can't be
characters
wondering
he never
why
thought
he's
he'd
doing
see
it.
Again. Those janky,
Like, why is
stolen
happening to him? Like,
characters
what'd you
that had
do
started
wrong? A
everything.
lot.
The mediocre melodies. It had all started to go wrong once they showed up. Once Henry had made them. But mixed in with their obnoxious southern drawls, William heard something else. It was barely a whisper, but he could just make out the words.
He tried to release you. He tried to release us. But I'm not gonna let that happen. I will hold you here.
Oh, so is that
I
Cassidy
will
talking
keep you
through the
here.
elephant?
No matter how many times they burn us.
Oh.
That voice. He knew that
Why
voice.
can that one not be
Where?
released from the heat? Which is Cassidy.
The one he shouldn't have killed. William thought back. He'd done a lot of awful things, but there was
lot.
always the one that stood out. Not Charlie, his drunken act of revenge. Not Susie, his first true murder. No. Instead, it was the one that he had lost control with. The one that he had
That got-
broken
yeah, that
beyond
got
repair
real
for
bad.
no good reason other than because he could. The one that he'd stuffed inside the golden bear that his
The one that
partner
was
used
more
to wear. Cassidy.
not
They
really
were back.
more
Now they were
malicious,
trying
but
to punish
more
him, to make him suffer like
brutal.
he'd made them suffer. It was almost like William and Cassidy's souls had been locked together, fused by a collective rage and spite, each refusing to move on. But while
That's fair.
Cassidy was so focused on taking revenge, they actually did the one thing that would be the downfall for so many others. They kept William alive. Even though fire should
then he
have
comes back.
destroyed the remnant that was coursing through his being, Cassidy kept William
Hatred
breathing,
kept him
paving the
living.
way for his escape.
And then he
William's will
escaped.
was so strong. His soul
So let
was
things
so
go.
powerful
Don't
that he
let
managed
hate
to put a
consume.
part of himself inside the circuitry that housed the spring-locked suit. And there, his consciousness lay, inside a single circuit board, waiting for someone to find him and set him free.
And
a
they
person
did.
that no one would suspect. Okay, so a bit of a shorter chunk, but an important
shorter
one as we
chunk?
shift perspective to Mike and tell
Still
his
pretty
side
long.
of the story.
It's like
With FNAF
40 seconds
VR,
shorter
AR,
than the
and
last
Security
one.
Breach having so much to explain, I didn't want to rush through things by trying to cram it all in
That's
here.
fair.
Don't worry, I know you've all been patient. The final video is happening on March 25th. That is locked. It is getting ready to go. Trust
I don't know when
me,
this
I
is
want this
uploaded.
thing to be over and done with as much as you. I am not just stretching it out for the views. But
For
before
the
we wrap up for
views?
the day, I
Is
did
there
want
a
to talk about the big
no?
Orville elephant in the room, Mike's quest for revenge. You might have noticed that I was vague about the dates, and there's a good reason for that. I don't know them. There is no
Does
good
it
way
really
for me to
matter
fit in.
when
Here's
it is?
what I do know.
When the dates
we
are?
know with a high amount of certainty that Michael Afton is the character that we play as up until Ultimate Custom Night. Mike Schmidt and Fritz Smith, the security guards for FNAF 1 and FNAF 2 respectively, get fired for, quote, tampering with the animatronics and odor. So weird connection between the two of them,
And a
right?
corpse,
But now,
yeah.
look at the phantom animatronics that are haunting us in FNAF 3. They use models from both FNAF 1 and FNAF 2, meaning whoever is sitting in that security guard chair, Fazbear Frights, they have to have seen both locations and their animatronics. And that's not all. Their designs are burnt. It's a weird detail in the game, and
Oh,
it's
yeah, they
something
are
that the character
burnt.
encyclopedia repeatedly calls attention to. The burned texture for these phantom animatronics. Why is that so
Did you
unusual,
see
though?
them burn,
Fazbear
though? Like, did
Frights
he
is the
watch them
first
burn?
time in the franchise that we hear about anything burning down. From that point on in the story, it's like the characters turn pyro and are suddenly setting fires left and right. But for the first 3 games, nothing ever catches fire. The animatronics are just moved or repurposed in some way. So when did they burn? And why would our security guards see them as being
That's a
burned?
very good
Someone has
point.
to have been going location to location
And
setting
burning
these
them down.
places on fire, purging the sins
But wouldn't
of
he
the
have had to, like,
past. We
kinda
know we're
see them
definitely
burning?
playing as Mike and sister location in FNAF 6 based on the in-game dialogue. And in FNAF 4, there's an Easter egg where we can hear the phone call from Night 1 of FNAF 1, meaning that
Oh, I
whoever's
played
in
that.
that bedroom has heard the recording
it's on the
as
channel.
a security guard. We also know that Mike has seen the nightmare animatronics based on his drawings in the security logbook. So overall, there is solid evidence that connects all of FNAFs 1 through 6. You'll also notice how the character encyclopedia doesn't have a page for Mike Afton. This thing has a page for Chocolate
Wait.
Bunny Bonnie, but not Michael. Some tells me they don't want us to confirm how
Why?
many games he's been in, because that would confirm too much of the theory.
That's,
in short,
I
this
guess,
gives us
true.
An incredibly compelling and complete narrative. Mike as our protagonist, and William, his father, as our antagonist. Mike accidentally kills his brother in Fredbear's mouth, which begins our story
I can't
and
believe
sets William down his
William
pathway of
didn't
destruction.
warn him
Mike is then
about
haunted by the
anything.
guilt of his past and is
Or maybe he
looking to
wanted
make things
that. Maybe
right
it was a
across the
trap.
rest of the games. In Sister Location, he learns what his father's been up to and realizes what he has to do to correct it. After failing to finish the job in FNAF 3, he ultimately helps Henry end it all in FNAF 6. It is great. It is a clean narrative. There is just one problem: timing. Mike's quest can't really start until he's been down to sister location, seen baby, and gotten himself scooped. That's when he finds out about Afton's secret life. It's also when he's gonna start to smell, because, you know, he's a walking, talking, rotting corpse. And we know that he's not going down into the bunker until the Funtime animatronics have been made, Freddy's has been closed, and Afton is out of the picture. That all should be happening post-1993, after William is sealed behind a wall. But that then presents us with a few problems. Afton has already dismantled the original animatronics as we see in the FNAF 3 minigames. How are those things getting burned if they're already deconstructed? But more
so put it back together?
We see FNAF 2 paychecks with the date 1987. That is way earlier than I think it can be. To be fair, Fritz Smith's
Do you think maybe that's just a mistake?
Doesn't have a date, but it's a bit weird to say that the first few nights are in 1987 and then employee number 3 is hired on years after the restaurant closes. Anyway, just wanted to call that out because I don't have a solid answer for it, and I'd love to see your comments down below.
I wonder what that's
that,
about.
my
Also, I
friends,
thought
this chapter
things were freaking out there.
We'll
That
see on
effect?
March 25th for the grand finale as we cover the final 3 games in the franchise.
There's
And the
still 3 minutes
controversial
left in this
answers we
video.
think solves what those games
Oh,
are trying
Gregory.
to tell us.
Oh,
Until
God.
then, my fast
You know what
heads,
we're talking about?
remember,
Never-
even though Afton kinda
the further we get
succeeded in
away
being
from
brought
the
back
first
to life,
games,
gotta admit, he's still
the
looking a little
more
bit on the dry, dehydrated
leaps we gotta
side.
take.
I suppose 3 fires and being dead for a decade will tend to do that.
Don't
to
have
me.
music playing
Fortunately,
the
thanks
ad.
to today's
Air
sponsor,
Up. I literally
Up,
just
we can
watched an
talk
Alfred
about
video
the
sponsored by Air Up.
hydration thing, not the
Don't
whole
have
burning
music.
alive thing. You guys know that I hate drinking plain water. It's just
Okay.
boring. And that then led me to
I
my
don't really
current
even hear.
crippling Diet Coke addiction.
Diet
However, Air Up
Coke?
has found a way to harness the power of science to get me to
Yeah,
drink
Air
more
Up.
water.
They
which
sponsor
not
my
only
friend
do I love in
Matt. They
principle, but I
sponsor
can truly
Jacob.
say has changed
Sponsor
my drinking
Game
habits
Theory.
forever. They use these special scent pods that fit directly onto the top of the bottle, and
I
almost
don't really
as if by
hear the
magic,
music,
it
but I
makes
really
the water
don't know if
taste
they're gonna
like
copyright claim this
basically
video
anything you
afterwards.
want. How? If you
I don't
guys have ever
know.
watched Food Theory, you probably heard me say that smell is more important than taste.
Yes.
And that's exactly what Air Up's taken advantage of here. These pods are full of
I'm
flavorful
just gonna
smell.
skip it just in case, just because I don't know if there was something at the very end of that. I'm sorry if I like missed out on something at the end there. I just know in the past when I have done the ad reads that Game Theory does for these videos, that they will play music in the background, and that music will get copyright claimed after the video goes live, which forces me to mute the entire segment for the entire video. So basically the entire part where they're doing the ad read, I have to mute my audio, their audio, everything, because they wait until after the video goes live to do that, because they play reindeer games. So shout out to Air Up. They are right. Your smell and taste are very connected. Air Up is a great way to drink water. I drink water like just on my own. I know not everybody can like do that, but personally, it's just what I do, just because health is wealth. But this was a very interesting theory. I learned a lot. I'm learning so much through the timeline. It makes things like, it's not just like theory, it's more like storytelling, and I really like that. It's a lot easier to follow. Then he makes an episode that's literally all of these videos like spliced together. Oh, that's why he did it in one take. That's why it seemed like he, like the intro, and then once he started again, it sounded just like the last one. So yeah, they did it all in one take. That was just where he cut it and then like put an intro and an outro at the beginning and the end of the videos. But I hope you're subscribed to some of his future videos. I really enjoyed this video. The next one's going to be the end of the Ultimate Timeline. I hope to see you there. I hope you're a subscriber. We're about to hit 81,000 subscribers. We'll probably hit it by the time this video goes live if we haven't already. I hope you're subscribed to some of his future videos. I try to make you smile. Hope I made your day time better. I will be reading your comments. Leave them down below. But until next video, take care and cue the music.